How many conversations, to your best of your recollection, did you have with Mr. Hudson prior to Mr. Hudson and Mr. Mosley coming up to Balco?
To the best of my recollection, maybe between 3 and 6.
Okay. Over how long a period?
Could have been over a couple months.
Over a couple of months. And do you recall anything about the first conversation you had with him as to what you said or what he said to you?
I think he'd reviewed the website, my company's website, and based on information that he had obtained there, that was questions about that was his initial call.
Did you have, and at the time, did your website talk about doing testing for well-known athletes and then providing supplement treatments to them?
There was likely information to that effect, yes.
Okay, and did you have discussions with Mr. Hudson, say in the first call, about what Balco could offer to Mr. Mosley?
Yes.
And do you recall what you told him?
I don't recall specifically.
How about generally?
The very first discussion, we probably talked about the assessment of different blood and urine samples and determining the specific needs of athletes regarding nutrition status and designing an individual program.
Okay. And did you have any discussions with him about what the cost of that would be?
I don't think initially we did.
Okay. There came a time when you spoke about illegal substances with Mr. Hudson, correct? Prior to speaking to Mr. Hudson about illegal substances, did you have any discussions with him about the cost of Mr. Mosley engaging Balco for services having nothing to do with illegal substances?
I may have talked about the cost of some of the blood tests involved.
And did you talk to him about any cost for that Balco would charge for its services?
Well, Balco did part of the testing, and then there were outside companies that also did testing. Okay. So, by Balco, do you mean for drugs?
Now, I'm having nothing to do with illegal drugs, with performing services that were unrelated to illegal drugs. Did you have to answer. Did you have any conversations with Mr. Hudson prior to discussing illegal drugs about what the cost of Balco's services would be?
We may have.
I'm sorry, just the time frame. Was it at the meeting, the telephone call?
Okay, during these initial telephone calls, before the issue of illegal drugs was discussed, and again, when I say illegal, I mean not only criminal, but banned substances, including the clear, the cream, EPO, and just so the illegal substances or banned substances you gave to Mr. Mosley were the clear, the cream, and the EPO, correct?
And possibly others.
What do you recall?
Insulin.
Insulin. Okay.
But why don't we just agree to language? When you say illegal substances, it covers anything, not only criminal, but any substances that were being used for purposes other than they normally would be, anything that was banned by any sports organization, and further yet, anything he believed could have been banned.
Okay.
So that
I may want some more detail, but that's great. Prior to the time, in your initial calls, during your initial calls with Mr. Hudson, prior to the time that the issue of the use of illegal substances was discussed, did you have any discussions with Mr. Hudson about what the cost of Balco's services would be?
I don't recall that we did, and my recollection is that I think I sent him some of the products for Shane at no charge.
Okay. That's, what products did you send, Mr. Mosley?
Perglycosine, the post-workout product, Vitalize, Rogatine, ZMA, these types of products.
All legal?
All legal.
Okay. And
I'm sorry, just for timing, this is prior to meeting anybody.
Correct.
okay. Do you recall the quantities you sent?
They wouldn't have been large.
Okay.
1 or 2 bottles of each, possibly.
All right. There came a time during your conversations with Mr. Hudson prior to meeting with him and Mr. Mosley where the issue of illegal substances was discussed. And
I'm sorry, it needs to
you have to say yes or no.
articulate it.
Yes, there came a time that illegal substances were discussed.
Okay. During a telephone call.
And some of the later telephone calls.
Okay. I'm talking about the first time
The very first time
that the
I talked
issue
to
of
him.
illegal substances was
okay.
discussed. What did you say to him? Well, first of all, who brought up the question of illegal substances?
I can't remember who brought it up or how the topic came up.
Do you recall anything that was said during that conversation?
When you're talking on the phone oftentimes you talk in kind of code.
But listen to the question.
Do I recall anything that was said? No, I don't recall.
When you say code, what do you mean?
Words that enable you to know what you're talking about, but without saying the words.
Well, what were the words?
Undetectable would be one of them.
Anything else?
Substances that enhance recovery.
But do you make any, at the time, were you making any claim on your website that any of your legal substances helped with recovery?
There may have been, yes.
Were you selling any products in 2003 that you advertised as helping with recovery?
Yes.
Okay. Any other code words you used, to your recollection, other than undetectable or helps with recovery? Was the word term you used helps with recovery? Okay. Any other terms that you used in code to suggest that illegal substances?
I don't recall.
Oh, okay. And do you have any recollection of any other conversation with Mr. Hudson prior to meeting with Mr. Hudson and Mr. Mosley in which you ever explicitly stated, not in code, that you were going to offer Mr. Mosley illegal substances?
Yes, I believe that Daryl did go and talk with Shane about...
That's not my question.
Well, okay.
Can you read the question back?
Do you have any recollection of any other conversation with Mr. Hudson prior to meeting with Mr. Hudson and Mr. Mosley in which you ever explicitly stated, not in code, that you were going to offer Mr. Mosley illegal substances?
Yes, I don't remember the exact words, but we did talk about illegal as well as banned substances were involved that were undetectable.
Okay. And that was before you met?
Yes.
Okay. And just so we're clear, you had never had any prior dealings with Mr. Hudson before he called you?
No.
In the time period between when he made his first call and when you met with Mr. Mosley, you had not done any inquiry with third parties to ascertain who Mr. Hudson was?
No, there were just a number of conversations over a few months.